Are you tired of hearing mental health from a superficial view and want to hear about realistic views? Well, you come to the right place, a space where healing is central, but also normalized. Your hosts, Danica and Myra, who are in the mental health field, will explore topics that help promote healing in your everyday life. Through our podcast, you will get the real and the work to focus on your healing. Welcome to Black Women Healing Podcast.
All right, y'all, this week we have a special guest that I've really been looking forward to, Nicole. But before we hop in, Danica's going to hit us with a random scenario. So, Danica, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. It's off the top of the head, always, Nicole. So if it's some stuff to fly out, just go with it, okay?
Let's go with it.
All right. Okay.
Don't think too hard.
Right. Okay. Because it's funny because my neighbors, they like bopping their music. So I hope that y'all can't hear it, but it makes me think about
I can't.
Like if you could only listen to one song consistently for a whole year, one song, what would the one song be?
Wow.
You would.
That is.
It's rough.
1 year. See, that's crazy because your mood changes so much, so it's like, what mood would I want to always be in?
This is a tough one.
I'm kind of between two, so I would try to think. I'm thinking Calm in the Light.
Ooh.
Just because it always just like gives me that vibe where I can just kind of be in a good space. So I'm gonna probably go with that.
That's a good one. Yeah. Myra, what about you?
I'm stuck in between two also, because I love Stevie Wonder, but I love Erykah Badu. So I'm leaning toward As by Stevie Wonder because I love that song. And then I kind of want to do Bag Lady because I feel like that song
That's
always
a jam.
applies.
Go Bag Lady. Bag Lady is lit.
Hey.
Yeah.
Oh.
Keep picking.
I think I would do John Legend, Ordinary People.
That's a good one.
So, because I think you sparked it, Janica, when you kind of talked about like the moods, like the over a whole entire span of even in a day you go through. But I feel like that would kind of get me back around it all the time.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
All right, y'all. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce Nicole. And just to give a little backstory. So Nicole follows us on Instagram and oftentimes will share videos and DMs them to us. And my aunt recently passed away. And it was crazy because you shared a video, the letter. Remember the letter that you wrote?
Yes.
So you shared it like the day after she passed away. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to stop and I'm going to listen to this. So I sent it from our business account to my personal account. And I listened to it and I was like, wow. And then I replied to you and I was like, I didn't know I needed this. And you were like, God is always on time or something like that. And then from then on, when I would take my showers every night, I would listen to little snippets of your podcast. But I feel like I'm in a phase of grieving where like I kind of run from it. So I listen to pieces and then you'll say something that'll hit me. And I'm like, I'm going to come back to that. So I'm really started at the beginning of your podcast and I'm working my way through it. But I'm just so thankful that like you sent that, like it was like divine timing. Like it's just crazy how that happened. But I'm gonna go ahead and get into your bio. So Nicole is a native of Lawnside. Is that how you say it? Lawnside, New Jersey?
Yep, Lawnside, New Jersey.
Lawnside, New Jersey. And Nicole is a passionate speaker, podcast host, and author. She has dedicated her life to helping others heal from grief after suffering complicated losses of her own. In 2019, she launched her first podcast, The Grief Bully. To date, Nicole has published 3 books, The Grief Bully Journal in 2019, Yours Truly at I Am Nicole in 2014, and The Adventures of Graham and Ladybug, a rhyming children's book in loving memory of her late grandmother in 2018. And we will share like all her social media stuff and her website. But if y'all are curious, her website is jnicolejones.com. And then her Instagram is I_am_jnicole. But like I said, we'll share that with y'all. So to go ahead and jump in, can you tell us a little bit about you and tell us about your journey to your work with Grief Bully?
Absolutely. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for having me on the show. And I'm happy to hear that that video was helpful. It's just me, just writing stuff, and I do believe that God is perfect in that way. That He just sends you, and you don't even know who you're helping that day. You're just reaching out, and you feel like someone needs something. So I'm happy that I was able to help you. So yeah, I'm Nicole. I'm from Lawnside, New Jersey. It's a small town. It's a predominantly African American community, and which I thought was pretty cool growing up. I'm like, wow, we're moving to the suburbs from the city, and I'm just like, so there's like all Black people here. Like it was a really cool thing. So it's important to me to always mention that. I am a speaker. I like to say just an impacting communicator. I don't want to say motivational speaker. My goal is not to motivate people, but to have life impact when I speak to you and when I speak just in general. So that's probably what I would more so refer myself to. I am an author, like you mentioned. And it's funny because all three of those books were birthed through grief. Mm-hmm. So my first book in 2013, one of my close friends, actually on the 25th will be 7 years that she passed away. I decided to dedicate that book to her. It was just a whole bunch of quotes that I had from Instagram posts that I put up and just different things. But the book itself is a dedication page totally to her. So that was something that I did there. 2016, my grandmother passed away. And so I made a Ryman children's book, which is The Adventures of Graham and Ladybug, just talking about, it's a cute kid story. I wanted to keep her loving going. And she called me Ladybug, and she made pancakes and I loved them. So it's a cute story about pancakes being stolen. And basically she's a superhero that saved the day, because that's how it was in life for real. She was a superhero that always saved the day for me. So I did that. And then most recently I published the Grieffully Journal, which is over 50 writing prompts and quotes about grief. And it just a couple of simple questions that would really get you thinking. I think a lot of us get stuck in not really knowing what that's like to even begin to heal, because you don't really know what, to ask yourself. So I did that. And then I launched the Grieffully podcast. Well, actually the podcast was before the journal. I launched the podcast in August. Actually on August 19th was my grandmother's birthday. And that was my first episode. So everything has just had to do with, turning my pain into purpose.
Yeah. I really appreciate that. Cause like I said, like, I watched the video and I was like, whoa, I'm blown away. And I even, like my brother, he's had a lot of grief that he's been dealing with too. And we bond over sending each other stuff that you post. So
wow.
Yeah, like we literally DM each other. All our DMs are us sending each other your stuff.
Wow, I got chills just now. I've never heard that before. And yeah. I think again, like I said to you when I first commented back in the DM, and I mean that, I don't just say that to seem like I'm this humble person, but when I feel like God is getting the glory and God's light, is shining through me for people to be able to have that conversation and dialogue. That's exactly why I'm doing this, is because especially people of color, I don't feel that we talk about this much. Yep. After the funeral, I mean, repast, eat some food, couple airbrush shirts, light a few candles, and you keep it pushing. We don't really talk too much more about it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a tough thing because a lot of us are struggling in silence.
Yep.
Yeah. Whew. Okay. Yeah, I'm getting chills already too. Okay, so if you all have not noticed, today we're going to be focusing on Black women and grief. And so one of the questions we want to ask Nicole is, who are we most likely to learn grieving styles from?
Yeah, I love that question. So I would say we are most likely to learn our grieving styles from life. And why I say that is because it's my belief that we do grief how we do life. So we do life how we do loss. So whomever we were around growing up and how we've learned to handle life in general is essentially who I believe we will learn, or what I believe we will learn to do our grief from, how we'll do that. So what I mean by that, to elaborate, is if you're a runner in life, you're probably going to be a runner in loss. If you're someone that, deals with things head on, then you're probably going to deal with it head on. And that's just something that I believe. I think we have a love language, and we also have a self-care language. So how we love ourselves and how we go through that is the same thing with grief. So I couldn't really pinpoint to a specific person, as more so our life experiences. I don't think you change automatically because the circumstances change. That's why I think we get disappointed by people so often, because we think because our circumstances change that they're supposed to show up differently. But that person is the same person that they were in every other situation in your life. So hopefully that is an answer that can be digested, if you will. But I couldn't, because when I was thinking about it, and I'm like, I don't know who I could specifically look at and say, this is how I will emulate my grieving.
Mm-hmm.
But there are experiences just from being raised from childhood and how I deal with my own personal issues. So I think it's all in the same.
Yeah, that's so deep, because I think when I wrote this question, I remember being like, probably gonna talk about, parents and, it's the first thing you seen, but your response just really like opened my eyes that life, like you as a person and like how you deal with things. Yeah, you do have your parents and like the origin of like your childhood, but at the same time, as you go through life, how you deal with things in general is going to be how like your grieving style. Ooh, that's deep. Yeah.
Think about that a lot differently too, because I know, like, for me, like when I'm dealing with things, I just put on a face like I'm strong, and I feel like now I've kind of come, like how I told you I recently lost my aunt, and now that's somebody that like I really, really love and so close to me. Now I feel like, how do I do this where I need support? Like, what do? I can't continue to put on this face that I'm strong anymore. Like, I have to work through this. And that's why, again, like, I'm thankful for your podcast, because it's like, okay, somebody else is going through this and they're talking about it. What?
That is, first of all, I'm sorry for your loss, and I definitely want to extend that. I don't take that lightly. And I think when I say that to people, I'm sorry for your loss, I want you to know that I'm not saying it from a cliche standpoint just to feel like it's the proper sentiment to extend. Yeah. I want you to hear that I want you to know I feel you. Like, I legit feel you, because when I hear that someone lost someone that they love closely, I'm gonna be honest, I'm like, man, life's about to get a little bit difficult for them, and that's just a real thing. And I feel so bad when I hear that. I'm like, damn, like everything they had planned or going on, or how they saw life and how they feel in general, just be uncomfortable in their own existence, is something that I wish I could eliminate for people.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Do you believe that Black women in particular have a specific way of grieving?
I think Black women in particular have a specific way of living. And you know what, Myra, you brought that point. You helped me bring this point, because I think the Black woman in general, we have, and we're working very hard to break out from it. I believe more recently, the air quote strong Black woman mentality. And I think that there's been times where we didn't have a choice, right? That's just our first self. And so I don't think, again, that changes in grief. I think the main reason why I say that is because I think we have a hard time putting ourselves first. Mm-hmm. So if you are a mother, if you are juggling multiple jobs, or you have a career, or you're in a relationship, those things naturally just come before your own well-being. Mm-hmm. You kind of feel like it's your responsibility. So I don't have time to be crying and breaking down if I don't show up all together. How's my family going to move? How are they going to operate? How am I going to pay this or do that? So I just don't know that. It's funny because I feel like we've been given more permission to be emotionally expressive than Black men. Mm. But I also don't feel like we've been given that much direction on how to allow ourselves as Black women to heal in a healthy way, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So if I was going back to your original question about how we learn about our grieving styles, I would definitely say when it comes to the Black woman, we do look at our mothers, or the lack of a mother, or our grandmothers, or our aunties, or whomever, to how we do life and how we do that. And I don't know that they gave themselves that permission to put themselves first, right? If you really think about it, no matter what the situation is, unless there was obviously some sort of addiction or something like that going on that didn't allow them. Otherwise, your mom is making it happen. You're making $1 out of 15 cents, just pushing. She don't have time to show us and hang her head and do all that. There's so much that I've been thinking about recently. I'm like, I don't even remember seeing my mom go through all these things that she told me that she went through. I'm like, really? That was going on and you were still smiling? How? Yeah. So that would probably be the answer to that, is that I think we have a difficult time because we have a difficult time putting ourselves first. And grief, if you're going to, and also want to explain this too, grief is the inward process of the loss. where mourning is the outward expression of such. So
Mm,
I won't say that we don't grieve. I would say that we have a hard time mourning, letting ourselves feel and feel like that's okay, giving ourselves permission to do so.
mm. Wow. Wow. I'm like blown away by what you just said, because mourning would be like crying, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So I found myself crying like every night. And one of the nights my boyfriend was like, "Are you drooling?" And I'm like, "No, I'm actually crying." And he's like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've been crying every night. Like, I don't know like what's going on." Like, I've been struggling to process like, what is this? Like, why am I always like crying? And it's not because I'm sad. It's just because like I think about like the memories and like what could have been and all these other things. I feel like I'm like trying to learn about the mourning process. I feel like I'm stuck and I don't fully understand that. And so I'm happy that you're kind of bringing up the difference between grief and mourning, because I feel like now I'm going to take some time to reflect after this and be like, okay, let me really think about this. Like, just processing it for myself.
Yeah, they're definitely they're definitely two different things. And I think that's the harder part. Because grief, I mean, think about it, when you lose someone, that's always in your mind. You can't really shake that if you try. But you can control whether you cry or not, and whether you write about it or talk to people about it. That's something that you more so can control. But allowing yourself to cry, and even though you don't feel like it's triggered by a particular thing that's bad in terms of being sad, but good memories make us cry too. But a lot of people just don't allow themselves to cry. There's power in your tears.
Yeah. And so I have this question for you, just because, as you could tell, I'm a big fan, obviously.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Queen. Far too kind.
Yeah. What are some ways you first begin your healing journey with grief?
So, it's typically, I would say that you have to accept a loss, but I've been learning recently that I don't know that I'll ever 100% accept it. But in order to start the healing process, I think you might have to be into some extent of acceptance. I don't know if that's fully, but for myself, when my friend passed away, I was definitely very difficult. She was only 25 and it was unexpected. So that was difficult. But when I lost my grandmother, I remember being at the hospital and my legs just like collapsed from underneath of me. Like, she was my world, my safe haven, everything to me. And in that moment, you're so powerless that I don't even know that it's important to figure out how am I going to heal from this, as much as it is how am I even going to continue to exist, because life as I knew it was away. So I think that once we can just accept not so much the death as we can accept the fact that life itself won't be the same, I think you can begin to heal, because you're not trying to get back. I was trying so hard to get back to how life was prior to the death. And that is where you get stuck, because you're saying, I'm so hurt, I'm so broken, I'm all of these things. And I want to get back to that feeling. But once I got to a place where I'm like, I'm not going to get back to that. It's got to be new normals, new things have to be created. And I'm still working on that. I'm still struggling in that area. But I think that's a great starting point for anybody. It's just like our life. When we want to create a business or get a job or career, clarity is power. When you have a vision and you know what the situation is, I think it keeps you on that path better. So although you're healing, and grief is not 5 stages and it's not linear, but once you know that, hey, I'm not working towards getting back to how things were, I'm working towards something different, I think is a great place to start.
I have to share that with my mom, because my grandma passed away 12 years ago and she's been trying to get back to this normal life. And I feel like she's kind of stuck in this part. And I think that if I share this with her, that'd be really powerful and hopeful for her.
Thank you. I hope so. It's just my experience. And also I cannot attribute everything to myself, for sure. I have a grief therapist and I've been intentional with my healing in that regard. So I definitely attribute a lot of it to that. But someone can take you to the water, but if you don't drink it, that's up to you. So I will give myself credit also, and God, but I definitely have learned a lot through grief therapy.
Yeah. Outside of therapy, what are some things you have found helpful when it comes to working through grief?
I would say journaling. I'm not just saying it as like a shameless plug for my journal. I definitely think journaling, because it's a non-judgment zone, and it's more, I think it requires more of us than just speaking out loud or just thinking in our head. Is something where you can just completely like no judgment, and you can reference back. So that's why I find power and benefit, because you might not feel like you're making progress on your healing journey, but if you look back and you're like, wow, like a month ago when I answered this question or when I wrote this, I'm not feeling so much like that. That's not keeping me stuck. I'm not bound by that. But when you just talk to someone, you might not remember those conversations as much as being able to have a concrete reference to gauge your own process, because slow progress is still progress. But let's be honest, no one wants to be in this long, brokenhearted phase. Like, you want to start to feel better. So you might overlook the small wins. I do. I'm like, man, I'm just still stuck in this area. But then I look back, I'm like, but not really, because I cried, but then I was able to bounce back faster than I typically am. Or I wasn't angry this time. I was able to smile. But it's easy to forget that through conversation. So I would definitely say journaling, exercise, I believe is very helpful. So it's a matter of having healthy coping mechanisms. I mean, drinking and smoking and doing drugs and all that is a common go-to for people, but I don't believe that that's healthy. I think it will hinder everything. A spiritual power, a spiritual higher power, or spiritual leadership, if you have that. For me personally, that's keeps me solid. Prayer, journaling, working out, exercising, and then finding, yeah. So those are concrete things. So the other thing I was going to say was just finding a why, finding a purpose greater than yourself to keep you going. So maybe another like hobby or something, but definitely those are probably the main things that have worked for me. Support groups are definitely dope, and being mindful of what you put in your mind. So social media, it can be a great thing. People give it a bad rap, but if you are filling your timeline with positive things that you can deposit into yourself, I think that's definitely helpful as well.
Yes. What about grief? What about grief has been hardest for you? Such as flooding memories, holidays that bring up reminders, and how have you worked through them?
The hardest part for me with grief has been knowing that it's going to happen again.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing that when I get through this, meaning when I start to feel better from this particular loss, it's going to happen again. So having that fear, if you will, has been very difficult, and it has caused me to have death anxiety. So I have anxiety about my own mortality as well as other people in my life. So when COVID happened, you gotta believe that my mind just started tripping for real.
Mm-hmm.
So I even stopped flying on planes, which I'm praying that I'll do that once we're able to fly again, because I felt less in control of my own mortality. So for me, in the grieving process and dealing with loss has been knowing that it's going to happen again, and I have to keep going through this cycle until my own death, right? So it's like I lost my father last year. I still have my mom, but in my mind, I'm like, damn, like one day I'm gonna have to sit here and go through all of this for my own mom. Like, I don't want to go through that. I call my mom and I'll hang up and be like, damn, I'm so blessed I got to talk to my mom. I might not talk to her again. Like, that was a real thing that just started like tripping me out. And so I believe that has been the hardest part. All of the other things that we all typically experience, crying, being sad, missing them, holidays, all of those things, of course, are very difficult, but I can navigate a little bit better with that stuff. But for me, just the acceptance of my own death and the death of people that I love is going to happen again has just been crazy.
Yeah. If you don't mind me asking, what kind of things have you been trying to do to kind of deal with that, like death anxiety?
That was my question too.
Yeah, my grief therapist, I just have to keep talking to her, and we talk it out. We talk about the root of it. We talk about I won't say actuality, but the reality of it, and just working to accept that. So sometimes I say to myself, yes, you will go through this again, but you are surviving these losses. So you've proven to yourself that you can still live. And then the other side will come back in and say, yeah, but that was really hard. But it's still looking at the proof of it has really helped with like I said, along with my therapist. But that's been the main thing for me. It's like, hey, listen, you've been through it. I mean, we're talking like my immediate family. My grandmother and my dad are on the same side. So it was like two of my key people in 3 years. So it's not like, okay, I lost someone that I barely know or anything like that. And so I didn't show myself that I have the strength to get through it. But that's been the main thing, is just trying to find ways to accept. And I don't think I'm through it yet. I think that I still, like, it's something that I have to continue to battle with. But I did make up my mind and made a decision that it will not overtake me. It won't steal my joy and allow me to not fly places and go and enjoy my life. Like, that's not something that I'm going to be okay with. And so I have to work through it. But it's definitely a struggle. So I can't really give a particular answer as to how I've been able to overcome it, because I think I'm still battling with that. And I know that just from my personality, it's something that could be a lot of work that it will take to get there. But I just been trying to stay in the moment and just continue to go to therapy and continue to talk about it.
Thank you so much for normalizing, like, utilizing your therapist and also your own skills. I know you mentioned like spiritual beliefs. Like, thank you for normalizing all of those things, because I feel like that all of those things are usually not normalized. I do want to ask you about, like, how did you seek out a grief therapist? Because, as you know, me and Myra were both therapists, but I know that at least as of now, that's something that we're not necessarily specializing in. So, like, how did you find a therapist that specializes in grief?
Yes, so I found a therapist that specializes in grief by researching, because I probably had, and I'm there's no shame here, I probably had over 13 maybe therapists throughout my life, just because, and I think that's something very, very important when we are talking to people and encouraging them to seek therapy and counseling, is that a therapist is not one size fits all. If you dated somebody and you didn't like them, does that mean that you're never going to like date again? It just means that you'll look out for different things, different flags, and know what you need. And so I've been on, I say, like, serial, like, dating therapists, like serial therapist relationships, because I would get with somebody and I'm like, yeah, no, your style's not really, and this is not really feeling me. So I had a couple different therapists, and I did look on, like, say, Psychology Today, and I would see the bullet points and I saw grief. But then I had 2 therapists before my current one, and I'm like, yeah, I think this is just a little bullet. They don't really specialize in this. And I think because I felt like I was going crazy when I lost my grandmother, like, I'm telling you, it's an understatement how I'm explaining this. I just felt so uncomfortable in my existence. It was like just being in the world naked with no blanket. And so I was bugging. So I was like, okay, I need someone that this is what they do. Like, this is their main thing, not all this different stuff. So I found my therapist. She had over 20 years experience, and she became a grief therapist, well, specializing in grief because of her own loss that she went through with her son. And so we had a conversation and it worked out. And she's been my therapist, I think, for like 2.5, maybe 3 years now.
Wow.
And that's my homie. She's actually been on my podcast. One of the episodes recently, she was on there, and I thought that was very helpful. But yeah, I had to keep working through it. Everybody's not going to be the same. But also, when it comes to therapy, people can only help you as much as you're willing to be honest. So you can't be honest with somebody that you don't feel comfortable with.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
Shout out to you guys. Therapy is dope, right? Shout out to our therapists.
Thank you. Yeah.
If you could give a takeaway for our listeners, what would you say? Or what takeaway would you give them?
2 things. I would say, for one, be kind to yourself and be patient. Emotional deficiency is real. So keep yourself in context. Don't just say, why am I like this? Why can't I do this? Why can't I do it? Because you just lost someone that you love. Like, you just watched your whoever in a casket. Or, like, that's not like you just had a bad day. Like, that is some serious situations to go through. So you have to keep yourself in context and realize that emotional deficiency is real, and know that it is possible for your days to be better, but that's up to you. The healing part of it is up to you. The second thing I would say too is, for those people who are dealing with loss, dealing with someone who's dealing with loss is what I meant to say, and you might not know how to handle that or show up in that person's life, it's important to ask them what support looks like and let them tell you. and really listen, because the way that I give support might not be the way that Myra will be able to receive that. That might not be the way that you respond. And so we're so used to giving in a certain way, and then we're like, man, it's something I could do to help them. So last thing I would say is that it's not your responsibility to solve their grief.
Yeah.
You can't solve it.
Would you also say for those who are grieving to kind of express how they need the support? Because I know, like, for me, that's where I struggle. I'm just like, I expect for people to read my mind. And now I'm in this phase where it's like, okay, maybe I need to share what I need.
Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely. It's on you too, Queen. I mean, I say it all the time. I want people to know how to support grievers, but we have a responsibility as well to articulate where we are. And even if we don't know, you also can say that, hey, I have to be honest with you. I don't know. I don't feel good. I do not feel like myself. So while I would have said yes to that invitation, I'm going to currently have to say no. Where I would normally watch that show or can listen to that music, I cannot do that right now. You may not know it, but my life has changed. I put a quote up that says, I missed a part of me that died when you did. Right? Because that's real. So whether people can't see that, we don't have a scarlet letter on our head that says I'm grieving and I don't know what's going on with me. So yeah, I definitely believe that it is our responsibility to communicate that, whether that's in writing or verbally. But people can't read your mind. Their life didn't change, And also, this is the other thing too. Even if we both experience the same loss, we still are going to handle that differently. Myself and my brothers handled the loss of my dad in three different ways. But that does not mean that we're all not hurting. It does not mean that it did not affect our lives, but just the way that we handle that is going to be different.
Yeah, most definitely. Thank you so much for coming on today. We needed this episode, especially with what's going on right now. We really need this episode.
Thank you both for having me. I truly appreciate it. And anytime you want to talk or have me out on the show at any time, definitely don't hesitate to let me know. That's what I'm here to do, is just share love and light and let us know that we are not crazy. We're grieving.
Yeah, definitely. Danica, do you want to add anything before we end?
No, I know for myself, like, I haven't, because I'm a person, if I cry, I'm going to let it out. But I know I'm going to cry later because I can feel it. It's not coming out, but I know I'm going to cry. And it's a little bit of both. It's a feeling of joy, of like you talked about the whole acceptance of like your life will be different after someone has passed this close to you. And I think that it's a piece of joy of like I have accepted that in folks who have passed away in my life. But then it's also like this, the still the mourning of it, like you still miss these people, and that's okay too. So I'm gonna cry later. It's gonna come.
I hope that we didn't make you cry, but that's a beautiful thing. And actually, I am happy that we're making you cry. That's a beautiful thing for sure. And yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much, and we'll be having you back, of course. We have to.
I look forward to it.
All right, y'all. So, Danica, what you sharing with us? Or do you have anything to share with us? You look like you in deep thought.
I'm speechless. Yeah, like I am. Like, Nicole's dope. Yeah,
You look like you want to cry now.
I know. I've been feeling like I want to cry this whole time, but it's just not coming out. Like I said,
I want to cry too, but I was like, this is not the time to cry.
This is absolutely the time to cry. Like, I had a whole thought that me and you was about to be just boo-hooing, and Jay Nicole was gonna be like, "All right, y'all can cry." Like she was gonna be supporting us.
I know. She posted a quote, and I want us to maybe, instead of us sharing something, just honor the quote and tie it to our life. So the quote is, "I choose to live my life making you proud. It's the most genuine conversation you and I could have." And in her sharing about her grandma, it made me reflect on this one time, because my grandma passed. Me and my grandma were tight. Like, that was my girl. And so when she passed, I was in the 8th grade, and I just never felt like closure. And so one day I was driving by the Inglewood Cemetery. That's where she's buried. And so I said, let me go here. Let me tell y'all. I went to her grave and I said, Grandma, let me tell you. Because my grandma would always speak blessings over my life. My grandma would always say, because my dad wasn't really in my life. I mean, he was there, but he wasn't really there. And my grandma would always say, he's going to beg to be in her life. And granted, she's right. My dad does beg to be in my life. And so I was just talking to her grave, like, you won't believe, like, I did X, Y, and Z things. Like, remember when you used to say this and that about me? Like, I've surpassed that. And so now I feel good about that. But now I'm thinking about my aunt, and my aunt, she was really big on, if you want to do something in life, you bust your ass. So my aunt was like a CEO of a bank, and very well off. And she would always tell me, if you want something, you bust your ass. And so lately I just been thinking about like, what does that mean for me? And when she would say it, she didn't mean like work at a job you don't like to make money. She meant like reach high heights that you want to reach. And so I've been thinking about like, what does that mean for me? And I do want to get my doctorate. And so that made me start applying. So that's my take on the quote for my life. What about you?
Shout out to you because I don't think I knew this, so we'll have to talk about that later. But yes, that's beautiful. I'm happy for you. This is dope. Um, can you repeat the quote again?
Yeah, 1 second. The quote is, I choose to live my life making you proud. It's the most genuine conversation you and I could have.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. My cousin, he is I have like a tag in my car, and every time I'm in my car when like I am like accomplishing something, I'll hold his tag and be like, oh, like we did it. Like, like look what's happening. Like
Is it
because I truly believe, yeah, that I mean in my sense of my spiritual beliefs, I most definitely feel like that. Him and also like my great grandmother and anybody I've lost are like working through me
Yeah.
and like blessing me. So yeah, that quote is bomb.
Now that you said like you have a tangible thing, so this necklace, I'm sure people have been wondering, why do I wear this all the time? My aunt left me this necklace. She left me a lot of nice little things, but this necklace in general reminds me of her. So I wear it every day. And now that you're talking about like I grab onto what did you say it was like a tag? Now I'm gonna grab
Yes, in my car. Yep. 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 That's what I do. I grab onto it.
Does
What'd
it
you
say
say?
something? Does the tag say something?
It has his picture and just like, rest in peace and but like it's been with me through all my cars. I got into a car accident and my car was like, pretty bad. But that tag is
Still there.
out with me. Like, I'm gonna get my tag out because yeah.
So, well, thank y'all for listening to this week's episode of Black Women's Healing Pod. I feel like this is probably the most vulnerable we've ever been. And so I hope to have Nicole back in the future. And I'm sure that she'll be willing to join us. So that's it for this week, y'all.